Let go without giving up. Buddhist wisdom. There's a moment most of us know well. You tell yourself, it's okay, I've let go. And for a few hours, maybe even a few days, it feels true. The weight lifts. The mind quiets down. You believe it's over. And then night comes. And you're lying awake again. The anger is still there. The regret is still there. The same scenes replay behind your closed eyes. The same words, the same faces. The same ache sitting right where it always was. You said, I've let go, but your body knows the truth. The heaviness hasn't moved. Something inside is still holding on, even though you told it to stop. This is something almost everyone has lived through, and almost no one talks about honestly. We hear let go everywhere, in books, in spiritual teachings, in conversations with people who care about us. People say it as if it's simple, as if all you have to do is decide. But nobody explains what letting go actually feels like on the inside. Nobody explains what makes it different from just walking away. So we try our best. We say the words. We make the decision. And then the weight is still there in the morning. And it gets worse. Because when you try to let go, and you can't, now you carry the original suffering and the quiet shame of failing at something that everyone seems to think is easy. Look around. Almost everyone is carrying something they claim they've already released. A past relationship that still stings when a certain name comes up. A career setback that still colors how they see themselves. A childhood wound that still shapes the way they love, the way they trust, the way they hold on too tight or pull away too fast. The words, I've let go, may be some of the most frequently spoken and most rarely true. Words in any language, there's a reason for that. And it has nothing to do with weakness. It has to do with the fact that what most of us call letting go is something very different from what the Buddha actually taught over 2,500 years ago with a care and precision that still holds up today. That's what I want to sit with you and explore. What letting go really means, why it's so hard, and what the Buddha saw that most of us have been missing. There's a picture that comes to mind for most people when they hear the words, let go. It looks like stillness, like passivity, like someone sitting quietly, wanting nothing, doing nothing, drifting through life without purpose. Some people hear let go and think, if I let go, I'll lose everything I've worked for. Others hear it and think, finally, permission to stop trying. Both reactions miss the point, because the Buddha never taught either of those things. And the actual meaning of letting go in his teaching is far more precise and far more beautiful than most people realize. In the Pali language, the language of the earliest Buddhist texts, the word for letting go is patanisaga, and the way it appears in the teachings reveals everything. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha's discourse on mindful breathing, he lays out 16 steps of practice, and the final 4 form a progression that is deeply revealing. First, you train yourself to breathe while focusing on inconstancy, observing directly that everything you experience is changing. Every sensation, every emotion, every thought, arising and passing away. Nothing holds still. Nothing stays the same from one breath to the next. Then, from that seeing, something naturally follows. You focus on dispassion, the fading of craving. The grip loosens on its own, because you've seen that what you were holding on to was never standing still. How do you cling to something that is constantly dissolving? Then comes cessation, the quieting of clinging itself. And finally, the 16th steps, relinquishment, patanisaga. This sequence matters deeply because it shows that in the Buddha's teaching, letting go is never where you start. It's where you arrive. You don't begin by letting go. You begin by seeing clearly, and letting go is what happens naturally, almost inevitably. At the end of a process of genuine understanding, the same insight appears in one of the most concise teachings in the Samyutta Nikaya. The Buddha said, "Form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness are impermanent." Seeing this, a learned noble disciple grows disillusioned. Being disillusioned, desire fades away. When desire fades away, they're freed, seeing impermanence. Then disillusionment, nibbida. Then the fading of desire, viraga. Then freedom, vimutti. Disillusionment can easily be misunderstood. In English, it sounds like defeat, but in the Buddhist context, it means something closer to waking up from a spell, like when you've been captivated by something for a long time, a relationship, an ambition, a belief about yourself. And one day you see it with enough clarity that the enchantment simply dissolves. Nobody forced it. You just saw what was actually there. And the fascination couldn't survive that seeing. The relationship was the same. The ambition was the same. Your seeing changed. And once seeing changes, everything that was built on not seeing starts to loosen. So, if we define letting go in the most direct way possible, based on the Buddha's own words, letting go is the natural release that happens when you see clearly. And what you've been holding on to is impermanent, cannot give you lasting satisfaction, and does not belong to any fixed self. These are the three characteristics. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. That the Buddha identified as the fundamental nature of all experience. What makes this definition so different from how most people understand letting go? Most people think of letting go as something you do, a decision, an act of willpower, a moment where you choose to stop caring. The Buddha's teaching points to something entirely different. Letting go is something that happens to you when you see clearly enough. You don't let go. The seeing lets go. You just provide the conditions for that seeing to arise. When you see this directly, through your own body, your own feelings, your own lived experience, the hand opens on its own. The way your fingers would release if you suddenly realized you were gripping a burning coal. Nobody needs to convince you. The seeing itself is what lets go. Now that we understand what the Buddha actually taught, something becomes very clear. Something most of us have felt but couldn't quite name. There's a world of difference between giving up and letting go, and the difference has nothing to do with the action. It has everything to do with what's happening inside you at the moment you walk away. Think about a time you let go of something, a relationship, a dream, a grudge, and ask yourself honestly, what was the feeling in your body at that moment? Was there a storm, resentment, exhaustion, the bitter taste of defeat? Or was there a quietness, something settling, something opening, a weight lifting that you couldn't quite explain? When you give up, there's usually that storm. You walk away burning. The hand opens. Yes, but the mind is still clenched tight. The arguments in your head are still running. The ache hasn't moved. You changed your circumstances, but the inner landscape is exactly the same. Weeks later, months later, the same anger surfaces. The same sadness returns. The same thoughts circle back because nothing inside actually shifted. You moved your body, but your heart stayed in the same place. When something truly lets go inside you, the experience is unmistakable. There's a settling, a softness, You may still feel sadness. You may still feel the weight of what was lost. But beneath that, there's a steadiness that wasn't there before. The thoughts slow down. The arguments in your head lose their urgency. Something at a level deeper than decision-making has loosened. So how does this actually happen? In the middle of real life. In the middle of real pain. Consider this. You're carrying the grief of something that ended. Every day you tell yourself you've moved on, but every night your mind returns to the same place. Now, instead of forcing yourself to let go, instead of pushing the feelings away or numbing them, you try something different. You stop, you sit with it, and you simply look at what is actually there. Not to fix it, not to analyze it, just to feel it. At first, this feels counterintuitive. Everything in you wants to move away from the pain, to distract yourself, to find some way to make it stop. But you stay, and if you stay with it long enough, honestly, patiently, something begins to happen. The pain shifts. It's not the same pain it was 5 minutes ago. The sharp edge softens slightly. The tightness in your chest changes shape. A new feeling surfaces. Maybe fear, maybe loneliness. Something underneath the grief that you hadn't noticed before. And that too shifts. That too changes, because everything does. That is impermanence. Not as a concept you agree with, but as something unfolding in your own body, in real time. This is very different from what most people do with their pain. Most people either fight it, pushing it down, keeping busy, telling themselves they're fine, or they get swallowed by it, replaying the same story over and over until the pain becomes part of who they are. Both responses keep the pain exactly where it is. Fighting it gives it something to push against. Drowning in it gives it a home. What changes everything is the third option. Simply watching it, being present with it without feeding it, and without running from it. And in that seeing, something loosens. You didn't make a decision to let go. You just saw clearly enough that the grip began to release on its own. That is Patanisaga at work. In the middle of your heartbreak, in the middle of an ordinary night, there's a simple way to check where you stand at any moment. Ask yourself, right now, do I feel at peace? Or am I simmering with resentment? Am I stepping towards something? Or running from something? If your body is still tense, your chest tight, your mind still arguing with someone who isn't there, then whatever is happening, it probably isn't letting go yet. It's a wound looking for distance. But if beneath the sadness, you can sense a certain spaciousness, an acceptance that doesn't feel forced, then the understanding is doing its quiet work. There's a reason letting go is one of the hardest things a human being can do, and it has almost nothing to do with the thing you're trying to release. From the time you were very young, the world taught you to hold on. Hold on to good grades. Hold on to friendships. Hold on to the approval of people around you. Hold on to the image of who you're supposed to be. The entire structure of society, education, family, culture, runs on one deep assumption. Your worth is measured by what you have, what you keep, and what you achieve. Lose any of it, and something is wrong with you. This has been passed down through generations, woven into how we learn to be human. So when someone says, let go, even when those words carry truth, they collide with everything you've absorbed since the day you were born. Every instinct says, hold tighter. Because holding is what you know. Holding is what kept you safe. The Buddha saw this clearly. Among the 10 fetters, Samyojana, the very first, is Sakayaditthi, the deeply rooted illusion that there is a fixed, permanent self at the center of everything, a me that must be defended, satisfied, validated. Every other form of clinging traces back to this root. We hold on to things because we believe there is someone here who needs them. And when that belief is questioned, even gently, it can feel like the ground disappearing beneath your feet. In the Alagada Pamasutta, the Buddha addressed this with remarkable directness. He told the monks that corporeality is not theirs. Let it go. Feeling is not theirs. Let it go. Perception is not theirs. Let it go. And he offered a striking image. If people carried away all the grass and branches in a grove, or burned them, would you think they're carrying me away? They're burning me. Of course not. Because those things aren't you. In the same way, what we cling to is not ours, and letting it go, the Buddha said, will bring welfare and happiness for a long time. So, if letting go has ever felt impossibly hard, understand, you're being invited to look at the very foundation. You've been standing on your entire life, and within this difficulty, there is a trap that can keep you stuck for years while you believe you're free. When the real work of letting go feels too heavy, the mind does something remarkably clever. It finds a shortcut. Instead of going through the slow process of genuine understanding, it turns down the volume on everything. It numbs itself, and it calls that numbness letting go. You've probably seen this happen. Someone goes through something devastating, a betrayal, a loss, a heartbreak, and instead of allowing themselves to feel it, they reach for the nearest spiritual idea. Everything is impermanent. Nothing matters, I'm at peace. The words are technically accurate, but the way they're being used has nothing to do with wisdom. They're being used as a wall between the person and a pain they haven't yet faced. And it works for a while. The pain quiets down. Life feels manageable again. The person begins to believe they've made peace with what happened. But something subtle has also happened. The heart has closed a door, and once one door closes, it becomes easier to close the next. And the next. Over time, this becomes a way of living. Trust disappears. Vulnerability starts to feel dangerous, and the person moves through life wrapped in a quiet that looks like peace from the outside. But inside, the warmth is gone. The openness is gone. Something essential has been shut down. In the Buddha's language, this is avijja, ignorance. You haven't gained clarity. You've simply turned away. The question then becomes, if forcing yourself to let go doesn't work, and numbing yourself isn't the answer either, then what is? The Buddha didn't just describe the problem. He offered a path, a way of working with the mind that avoids both extremes. The extreme of clinging until it breaks you, and the extreme of numbing yourself and calling it freedom. That path begins with something very specific, right effort, sama vayama. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha described it clearly. A practitioner generates desire, endeavors, activates persistence for 4 purposes: to prevent harmful states from arising, to abandon those already present, to develop wholesome qualities that haven't yet appeared, and to maintain those already present. This is active, deliberate engagement, the opposite of passivity. And the crucial thing to understand is that the effort isn't spent on trying to let go. The effort is spent on creating the conditions for clear seeing, on training the mind to stay present, to observe honestly, to keep looking when everything in you wants to look away. And from that seeing, as we've explored, the letting go follows on its own. But what does that effort actually look like in practice? In the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, when teaching the contemplation of feelings, Vedananupassana, the Buddha gave instructions that are both simple and radical. When a mendicant feels a pleasant feeling, they know, I feel a pleasant feeling. When they feel a painful feeling, they know, I feel a painful feeling. When they feel a neutral feeling, they know, I feel a neutral feeling. He was pointing to something that goes against both of our deepest instincts. Our first instinct when pain arrives is to push it away. Our second is to drown in it, to wrap our identity around it and let it consume us. The Buddha pointed to a third way. Stay present with it, feel it fully, know that it is there, and in that knowing, don't become it. Don't cling, don't flee, just be aware. This is the middle way lived from the inside, and it is something you can begin to practice right now, not only on a meditation cushion, but in the middle of your daily life. When anger rises during a conversation, you can pause and notice. There is anger here. When loneliness shows up on a quiet evening, you can sit with it. There is loneliness here. When fear tightens your chest before a difficult decision, you can breathe and observe. There is fear here each time you do this. Each time you stay present with what you feel, instead of running from it or being consumed by it, you are walking the path the Buddha described. This practice doesn't require you to withdraw from life or sit in a monastery for years. It requires one thing: the willingness to stay with your own experience for a moment longer than feels comfortable, to breathe into the tightness instead of away from it, to look at the sadness instead of around it. That willingness, practiced again and again in small moments throughout your day, is what builds the foundation from which real letting go becomes possible. And when you practice this way, something begins to happen that thinking alone cannot produce. The feeling moves. It changes shape. It may intensify before it softens, but it softens because every feeling shares the same nature. It arises, exists for a time, and passes away. Anicca, impermanence, experienced directly in your own body, breath by breath. And within this kind of seeing, patient, steady, lived, something shifts. You don't force yourself to let go. You see with such clarity that holding on loses its ground. A leaf doesn't release from its branch through effort. The season changes, and when the time comes, it falls. This is how the Buddha's teaching works. It gives you a way of seeing, and the letting go arises from that seeing in its own time, at its own pace. Your job is simply to keep looking, honestly, gently, without turning away. In the end, letting go may be the deepest form of presence a human being is capable of. It is not the absence of love. It is not the withdrawal from life. It is the releasing of everything that stands between you and being fully here. The clinging, the delusions, the fears, so that what remains is a heart open enough to live, to give, and to love with everything it has.